wreaking havoc with radiation. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, Batman's Future's End, Blight. After Bruce Wayne's health began to decline, Derek Powers, the corrupt CEO of Powers Technology, merged his company with Wayne's. With access to new assets, Powers used his vast resources to develop dangerous weapons for the government. After being exposed to one of the deadly chemical agents, Powers attempted to save his own life by experimenting on himself with large amounts of radiation. But the chemical's agent's effect, coupled with the radiation, transformed him into a monster. Now Powers has become Blight, a radioactive metahuman with glowing translucent skin and a lethal touch. Decided to leave someone lethal for last before we get a closer look at Blight, one of my personal favorites from this wave. Let's go ahead and grab my trusty ruler, put it right to the very top of his domed head. The figure stands at almost 8 inches in height, or about 20 centimeters tall. Well, gents, this is what we've covered off so far for the Batman Future's End wave, bringing in the other figures right now. Can I call you gents, by the way? Oh, apparently not. Viewers. This is what we've covered off so far from this wave, bringing in the Terry McGinnis Batman with a slight variation to his head sculpt. Speaking of variations, we also had a look at Shriek. A variation, still don't know where that figure went, of the original one that was unhelmeted. Still prefer the one with the helmet myself. And then just recently, we also had a look at Batwoman, who has some really gnarly feet going on there. I don't know what's going on with her feet, but she has some real difficult time standing. Yeah, splitting it right down the middle. 2 figures were really essentially re-releases from before, slight tweaks, of course, here and there. And then the other half of it, Blight and Batwoman, are brand new figures. Batwoman, Blight, yes, I actually do like the look of Blight. Let's have a look at his accessories. Speaking of things I can't find, boy do I have a tale to tell you all. Before doing that, though, everybody's now excited about the tale. Let's have a look at the trading card that comes included with Blight. Funny enough, though, as we've looked at each character, it almost seems now in order. They have added themselves to each of the new trading cards that we have a look at. It started off with first Batman Beyond. Then we added, of course, Shriek. Then I think in proper order it was Batwoman. And then we also added the Batman Future's End. By the time, really, we get down to Blight, it looks like an episode of the Brady Bunch. All the characters represented here. It'd be really hard-pressed to look at this and immediately see that this is Blight's card. Yes, go ahead, sir. In the back. You're going to have to speak up. You're a little quiet. Oh, that's your voice. I'm sorry. Yes, technically, Quiet Man in the back. Blight's name is really printed down below here so that you do know it's Blight. But I mean, other than that, just looking at the image, it's just a collage of characters. I really think they're missing the opportunity here and really missing the point, really, of a trading card. It's not a team shot. It's one standalone character, and yet they're throwing everybody else there into the mix as well. On the back of the card, also to your point, Quiet Man in the back. Real name is Derek Powers, so we know that this is Blight's card, along with quite a substantial read-up. You can either pause and read for yourself, Quiet Man, or it is also so happens to be the same thing I read at the beginning of this video too. Fancy that. Gonna put quite the busy-looking card to the side here, and have a look at the next accessory. The figure comes included with a display stand. I'm now so set on that trading card. The figure also comes included with a display stand. Yes. Done in black. Yes. And also still branded down below here in the DC logo, also in black, and still is a magnet to fingerprints. This can attach to, of course, either one of Blight's feet. I can show you guys that later on in a second, but I guess you guys kind of get the idea. You get the gist of how a figure's feet attach to a display stand. I'm sure I don't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. What I do want to talk about, though, actually not yet. We'll postpone that for a second. You may also see, if you've picked up this figure for yourself, there is one thing that is missing right here, and that goes back to my story I'm about to tell you guys. But before that, the thing that also comes included for Blight, or for specifically Batman Future's End, is these back extendable arms. They're kind of these mechanized looking hands that look like witches' hands reaching off to the side and grabbing some small child sleeping in their bed. That's a disturbing thought. We can actually take these arms and we can plug them onto the back of Batman Future's End. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth. It is difficult because there's a hinge joint right here. You sort of have to hold that on or hold on to that as we're twisting this back and forth. It's not something that so easily can be done. You can then take the exact same arm well, not quite the exact same arm, but repeating at least the steps, and just plug that in onto the other side as well. Don't worry, I'll fix this when things come time to actually look at Batman Future's End. And that's finished. I mean, it's all done. I mean, I can pretty much wrap things up right now and call this a done deal. But we're actually going to have a look at Batman Future's End in an upcoming video, along with what I will hope to be our fixed arms. I'm going to spend a little bit more time plugging those onto the back of his torso. Leave that with me. Okay. As for my story, I've been hyping it up this whole time, thinking it's really like a really interesting, fun story, one that you would share among with other friends. I actually took Blight out of his packaging. Actually, I removed the plastic tray, and I was popping everything out. And while I was doing that, he comes included also with an alternate hand. And I swear to you, I swear I could hear the sound of it going pew across the room. Then from there, my little kitty cat decided to swat around the little tiny hand. And what I thought would actually have been a longer story, that was the end of it. The cat has now knocked the hand somewhere. I have no idea where it ended up being. But the alternate hand that comes included with Blight, let me go ahead and pick the figure up so you can see what's going on here, is an alternate hand to this hand here. I'm still going to be using this hand anyways when it comes to my own displaying of the figure, so no harm, no foul. But certainly when it comes to reviewing these figures, I'd like to hope to think that I could actually have all the stuff readily available in front of me to be able to show you guys. I feel like I'm coming up just a little bit short. So when you are grading the end of this video, both grade your meal and grade the services and the review itself, just kind of keep that in mind. I did try my best. I spent a good hour trying to track that hand down. It essentially would have looked similar to this hand, like a gripping hand, but it would have been done in this style. Is that enough of a description? I certainly hope it's enough of a description. Pew! Literally, I feel like it made that sound going across the room. And then, of course, my cat went meow, meow, and then started swatting it around. To make a long story short, and in this case, I guess a short story long. So yeah, he doesn't come included with the alternate hands, which basically would have been the one that plugged into this instead. Now, for me, I prefer this hand anyways. So I'm not all that disappointed that I've lost the hand. I'm sure I'm going to find it somewhere. I hope I don't end up finding it in the cat's litter box. Do I retrieve it and still use the hand? No, I think that's just a lost cause. Let's just leave it to the litter box. That's probably going to go out with the trash. But anyways, though, it would have been this hand, so you would have just, like, popped this out. I'm just, use your imagination just to believe them. Yeah, popping this out, replacing with a hand that looks similar to this, but it would have been like a gripping hand like this. I mean, really, when you're looking at the two anyways, I mean, isn't this more the cooler hand? It's got the nice, interesting sculpt of like the energy that's coming from fingertip to fingertip and also touching his thumb as well. Really think that's neat. I love the way, especially the way that they've actually got like an x-ray, the bones on the inside of the hands glowing, or I guess more the darker, and the hands themselves are glowing. Really like the look of the translucent green that they ended up using. Speaking though of translucent green, a segue now over to his head sculpt. One little bit of preparation in order to get this guy fully on display. Slide the dome off. I don't know if anybody was aware of this. Just going to put the figure down right now. It kind of looks like the Headless Horseman. Just kind of take your finger in there. What's he doing with this? And just pull out this piece right here. No, it's not magic. Just remove that. And then you can take the rest of the dome. They probably put that in there just to reinforce the head, because right now the head is only, I think, glued just to the sides, probably not to the front. And right there, you can actually see there's the spinal cord that attaches to the rest of the head. The spinal cord is attached to the head, just like that. I mean, you could really leave it in if you want to, but I think it gives you more of a neater translucent effect of being able to see the top of the spinal cord and sort of like then the head floating on top of that. Because of the way the head is attached in place, it actually still allows the figure to have head rotation. Ball joints, yeah, you're not going to be getting ball joints. Listen to this guy talk about ball joints. You're not going to be able to get ball joints. No, unfortunately not. But you can still rotate the head back and forth. You can get the head kind of looking this way, or of course looking straight forward as well. A slight departure from, of course, the Blight that we would have seen in the original Batman Beyond cartoon. He looks kind of more like a suit that Lex Luthor would have designed for himself. Again, here, though, a little bit more of a purple color than the traditional green. I really like the detail that they put into this. Kind of similar to what we got with Shriek. He has all these little orbs of translucent green that you can see have been embedded into the actual torso. He's got 3 of various sizes. Actually, these ones are a little closer to size. Some of the other orbs that aren't the ones here and on the ones on the back are painted rather than actually using translucent green, but still looks nice. It glows almost on its own. It has all this additional neat panel line that runs down the length of his arms and down the length of his torso as well. All of those, by the way, are sculpted to be raised rather than actually just painting them onto the body. I like the fact that they actually took the time, attention to detail, and actually painted those in. And sculpted them too. The detailing on the torso and really all the rest of the suit as well has some really interesting, getting close so you can see, sort of looks like basket weaving. Have you ever woven a basket? It takes a long time. Believe you me, I've actually only woven one basket. I really should have continued that hobby. I probably could have done much more with my basket weaving, but it does look certainly a lot more like basket woven texturing. I really like the way that looks. Now, the top torso is sort of split up here. The top half, of course, is where your ball joint's going to be, and it's more of a harder plastic here. Where you get to like this mid-skirted area, like the mid-abdomen section, you can see it's much more of a softer plastic. Because they have used softer plastic, it sort of unfortunately leaves a gap. You see that this right here. I don't know why it had to be so far away from his body. And you may think to yourself, maybe you're just going to kind of correct it. You can a little bit, but it's always going to leave like these permanent spaces. It really doesn't make for, I mean, from a distance, it gives you more of a seamless look, following the contours of its body. I mean, it's more really to when you're looking at it close like this, that you see the spaces. And again, using the softer plastic, I would imagine that this may start warping over time. You may start like seeing these little lips sticking up, kind of like what I've got going on right here. Yeah, I got one little lip of plastic. I would imagine it came out of the mold like this. He's also got quite a toned looking behind. Normally, I don't draw a lot of attention to figures' behinds. That's left for another reviewer to do that. But he definitely has a much more fitted looking behind. I don't know why I'm drawing so much attention to it. And he does have really some nice detailing done to him. Not, yes, your traditional looking Blight, but he definitely has some really interesting elements going for him. I am admittingly a little bummed out the fact I did lose the hand. Phew, shot across the room, I kid you not. And it even made that sound. But really, I mean, between the two, this is such the nicer, cooler looking hand anyways, that even if I did have that hand, it would only be here to show you guys in the review. And then after the review, when everything was done for the day, I would just display him with this anyways. Because why would you want to leave that off? That's just too neat of a hand to leave off the figure. Okay. Talking about the figure's articulation. Starting things off first, of course, with his head sculpt. If you can actually get your hand in there, you can rotate the head back and forth. Because he has a higher collar here on the back, it's sort of, you have to really kind of get it in there with your fingers. Slippery fingers will not work here when it comes to moving Blight's head back and forth. As for his shoulders, though, much easier to do. You can bring those arms out like this. He does have a little socketed joint on the inside that conceals the joint of where that's been plugged into the rest of his torso. And of course, you have the arms rotate all the way around as well. Is loose on this one arm. This side isn't as bad, but I'd much rather have looser arms than looser legs. His legs aren't terrible yet. I'm hoping they're not going to increase their terribleness the longer I have this figure on display. Arms rotate all the way around. The figure does have, yes, a bicep swivel. This part, by the way, of his arm is attached to his bicep and not attached to his shoulder, so it doesn't have any limitations when it comes to rotating his bicep. Figure has double hinges on the elbows. There's 1 and 2, and you can see sort of the old styling of McFarlane. This brings me back to looking at remember back in the day when they were first doing like the Walking Dead stuff, and they had such ugly looking joints. Weren't they just the most ugliest things to look at? This kind of reminds me of that. Sort of that little ledge joint. That kind of really does serve as a ratcheted joint. You can even hear it, providing this guy shuts up for a second. Yeah, you can hear that bit of a ratcheted joint. Hands rotate all the way around. Even this hand right here can also give you the means of rotating all the way around. Figure has an upper torso ball joint. And then again, you've got that lower, I keep saying it's skirting, but it really is his abdomen area. Because again, using softer plastic, at least you do get the ball joint down below. I guess they, again, did that to make it look more like just a suit. Because if they had put the ball joint right here, there really wouldn't be anything hiding it. This at least conceals the joint, but it does leave noticeable gaps on both sides. As for the legs do come out. You can certainly see one of the downsides also of using the softer plastic in the lower area here. Yeah, the legs are prone to tucking inside of that. I had this issue when we were first having a look at Batwoman. It seems to be a problem that's also starting to plague Blight as well. It always seems to be like one leg too. It's never both. While this leg is fine, I think also Batwoman gave me the same problem on this same side. Fancy that. You can bring the legs forward and you can bring the legs back. The figure does have a swivel on the top where that's essentially just plugged into place. The figure does have a double hinge on the knee, which again is super tight on these figures, but I would again rather tight than super loose. And then when it comes to his feet, yeah, back and forth this way, back and forth this way. And unlike Batwoman, No, not the fact that he has toe articulation. She did have toe articulation as well. But unlike Batwoman, Blight's feet are completely flat. Where they've put the pin joint seems to be the same place where they put also Batwoman's foot joint. But for some reason, he has a much flatter footing. Because of that, the figure has no difficult time standing whatsoever. For me, Blight is the star of this wave. Providing, again, I just get his feet straight up there. There. Oh, almost. There we go. Perfect. That's how you just slide him back a little bit. Yeah, for me, Blight is the star of this wave. Followed closely to that is Streak. Sort of a hard sell, I feel this wave is too. Whereas half the wave, literally split down the middle, paying the restaurant bill. Half the wave are brand new figures that you can't get anywhere else. And then the other half are like, we've already been here. We've done that. Deja vu is basically what you're getting the first two figures that we had to look at in this wave. Tweaked a little bit still. I know I'm bringing up points that I mentioned in earlier reviews. For me, like Shriek number 2 is my second favorite figure in this wave, even though technically he is just double dipping that original figure we got before. And then I would say it's probably Batman Beyond with the visor, the part that covers over top of his mouth. Still don't really know how to properly describe that in the reviews. And then I think near the bottom, or I guess that is really the bottom, is Batwoman. Not a bad looking figure, but just not a figure I would have picked up in any other circumstance other than just to be building Future End's Batman, which, by the way, is the next video that we're going to be having a look at after we wrap up shop here on Blight. I don't know, maybe it is that Lex Luthor power suit vibe I'm getting here with Blight. It's the reasoning why I like the figure so much. It sort of looks like power suit Lex Luthor mixed a bit with Mr. Freeze. Ooh, I can imagine what McFarlane's team could do with a Mr. Freeze figure, kind of based on what they would have done here with Blight. I think a Mr. Freeze would be awesome, sort of in this same design. I wonder if they probably could reuse some of the same body elements to give ourselves a Mr. Freeze. I'm speaking so ahead of myself right now. Blight, neat looking figure. Shame and a bit of a bummer that I did lose the hand prior to shooting this review. I don't mind losing the things after the review, but I feel like I come up a little bit short if I can't actually show you guys all the things that came included with the figure. Pew! That was, I swear to you, that was the sound it made as it shot across the room. And I'd have to maybe ask my kitty. I can't really speak cat. I'd have to be able to interpret whereabouts my little tiny kitty has put that hand. I really hope it's not in the litter box. If it is in the litter box, I'm just going to write it off completely. Anybody could say, well, you could just fish it out, wash it off. I'm not going to do that. It's been inside of a cat. It's come out the back of a cat. That other hand, which I've lost already, and just assumed it was gone anyways. If I find it in a litter box, it's totally gone. It's Trashville for that extra hand. And really, by the way, anyways, that hand, by the way, that is in his socket right now, fair enough, is the better of the two anyways, that I'm not disappointed. If I had lost, say, that hand, that would be even bigger of a bummer. A big cat bummer. Anyways, though, like you can see on the back of the packaging once again, that is just, by the way, a blown-up image of all the characters that were on Blight's card. Did we need to add every single character? I mean, if you were just buying Blight on his own and trading cards was a big thing for you, I know sometimes it seems like it's a big thing for me here on this channel. I just like the idea that they throw in trading cards myself. But for me, ever since they sort of started moving to figure photography, I don't dig the cards as much as I used to. And really, now that we're getting into waves where it seems like they're adding the character from the previous wave or previous review into the next figure's card, I figure by the time we get to like a character like Blight, there's just so much business going on in that card. That card is occupying way too much real estate space when it comes to all the characters that are presently featured on there. I'd have no idea that was the card that was supposed to be for Blight. If you were to tell me that that's the card for the Batman Futures End wave as a whole in general, sure, yeah, I can get behind that. But to tell me that that's Blight's card, I say that's shenanigans. Shenanigans. Now I'm wondering if that is in the litter box. I really hope that hand isn't in the litter box. Leave it with me. Leave it with me. Some of the viewers have already said, I left that with you a long time ago. What do you guys think of Blight? Let me know down below in the comments section. Do you think, by the way, with the mold that they've given us here, that they could maybe reuse this in some way, shape, or form and give us a really sick Mr. Freeze? That would be awesome. For your video question for today, by the way, is who's your favorite villain from the Batman Beyond cartoon? For me, personally, I was always really big into ink. I wish we could get ourselves an ink before that quiet person in the back actually pipes up loudly, much more loud than before, and says, well, we did actually get ourselves an ink. It really wasn't an ink. It was like an ink Batman Beyond Terry McGinnis. It was just a repaint, essentially, and that's why I never picked it up in the first place. But I would love to see ink get a figure, just the way the ink looks in the cartoon. But what's your favorite Batman Beyond villain? please let me know down below in the comments section. And while you're down there anyways, doing the answering to questions that the person behind the camera has posed you, make sure if you are new here, that you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, that you hit that subscribe button down below, that you turn on the bell notification, and that, yes, you're making sure as well, you're keeping your peepers peeled. Well, we have wrapped up things for at least the 4 figures that make up this wave. Those that have been very astute viewers this whole time will also know we have finished ourselves Batman Future's End, and his review, their review, because he's sort of sharing it with Joker, their review is going to be coming up in the next video. So keep your peepers peeled for that. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.